What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today we're going to be ranking teams broken down into tiers, ranked A through F, just like grades in school. We're going to tell you where each team is and in which tier they belong. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick. Well, we're taking a look at some of the teams entering the 2021 NFL season. And as we stand, we have not hit the NFL draft, but I thought this was a good time to take take a look at these teams and rank them in tiers as you do on, say, like tiermaker.com or whatever. But I wanted to take a look at these teams and say, okay, they belong in F and so on and so forth, because I truly believe that there's teams that are very close to each other. I think there's teams that, are very far apart. And if we can rank them in tiers, I believe that it shows where each team really truly is. If we do it by number, they could be four numbers apart, but still pretty close.
Absolutely. And we'll start off with the F tier, the worst of the worst, if you will. And we have the Atlanta Falcons, Jacksonville Jaguars, Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Houston Texans. And when I look at this list, I see a lot of teams that have had success in the recent past. I think the Atlanta Falcons were just in the Super Bowl. The Houston Texans were in the playoffs 2 years in a row. The Eagles just won the Super Bowl a few years ago. What happened to these teams? I mean, I already missed the Jacksonville Jaguars that were in the AFC Championship game. What has happened to these teams that they have found themselves in this position? It's really come down to mismanaged teams by front offices and coaches, and they don't know how to groom homegrown talent. They had players that were veterans, now not on the team, that really carried this team, and they overpaid players that are currently on the team but are not performing at the level at which you expect them to. The only team on this list that I could really see moving up and off this list by the end of the year is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's because they have 2 first-round picks, one of which we know will be used on Trevor Lawrence. And you look at their team, the way it's structured, it's a lot of young guys. They lost a lot of their homegrown talent that was in the AFC Championship game a few years ago, but now we're going to be looking at the new regime coming in and taking over and grooming the new homegrown talent. I think they have the best chance at moving out. The rest of the teams, I think they're going to be sticking around for a little while.
I think Thomas Dimitroff, when he was with the Atlanta Falcons, absolutely decimated this roster with the contracts that he put in place. I mean, the cap hits alone were absolutely handicapping this team. That's why they're in such a bad position. You look at, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones. These guys are asked to take major pay cuts or change their contract structures because the Falcons are in desperate need to get some cap relief. They need to have just a little wiggle room to work around this season, and that included cutting Matt Ryan's cap hit number by $30 million. $30 million. That's absolutely insane. So you take a look at front offices. Thomas Dimitroff screwed the Atlanta Falcons. The Detroit Lions, they have been in absolute disarray for decades. I truly believe that they are a place that, just has not been able to get it right. Matt Patricia set this franchise back many, many years because of the decisions that he made and how he was running this team. The Philadelphia Eagles, well, anytime I get to shit on this team, I'm happy about it because the Philadelphia Eagles, this team is atrocious. I mean, you chose Jalen Hurts as your goddamn quarterback. I mean, let's just start off with the glaringly obvious, right? Okay, that's who you're running with. So congratulations on that one. Whew. You have Travis Fulgham as your wide receiver 1, so you're winning there. You have a tight end that doesn't want to be there anymore in Zach Ertz. You have offensive linemen that can't stay healthy, and one that talks a lot but can't really back it up in Jason Peters. And then on top of that, the whole defense outside of the defensive line is just decimated. Players are gone; they don't exist anymore. The whole position groups are just not there. This team is in disarray. And then the Houston Texans are rebuilding from the massive issues that Bill O'Brien brought them. They have a ton of issues that they have to work through. Nick Caserio is doing a really good job. The only move I've questioned so far from Caserio is David Culley really the coach you want leading this team?
All right, well, that was the F tier, and now we have the D tier. Not as bad, but pretty bad. And it starts off with the Carolina Panthers. We have the Tennessee Titans, Denver Broncos, the New York Jets, no surprise, Dallas Cowboys, Cincinnati Bengals, Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Giants, and the Chicago Bears. And you look at this list, the biggest surprise to me, the Tennessee Titans. They're a team that last year, even 2 years ago, were a B tier team. They were a team that you thought might even make it to the Super Bowl by this time. Well, they're actually headed in the wrong direction. They're losing some of their biggest talent in Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. Those guys were pivotal on that offense, even though they weren't the biggest names for them. Their offense now is going to be in a little bit of a havoc where they're going to be struggling. I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to be able to run for 2,000 yards without those guys on the field. I don't think A.J. Brown is going to be the same wide receiver without Corey Davis opposite him. It's just not going to be the same team. Their defense took some massive hits. Malcolm Butler's not there. Adoree Jackson's not there. The secondary is in a bad spot, and it can't be fixed overnight. This is going to be a couple of years until they are back to where they need to be, where they can compete. The Colts are going to be winning this division for the next couple of years, and that's just facts. There's nothing the Tennessee Titans can do at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, just running through the team, Carolina Panthers have some major issues. The Denver Broncos quarterback, I mean, Drew Lock really the answer. The defensive line and edge need some help. The New York Jets, that offensive line is atrocious. The entire defense needs an overhaul. Joe Douglas just got there. Robert Salah just got there. This team needs some time. The Dallas Cowboys are interesting to be all the way down here, though, because you take a look, their offense is so potent, but their defense gives up a ton, and I think that's where you have to really take a look. They lost some key pieces too. They signed Gerald McCoy last year and released him before he could even start the season. Then you released Terry Poe. Then you don't bring back Aldon Smith this year, and the losses just keep adding up and adding up. There's no cornerback outside of Trayvon Diggs, so you got to really figure that out. Cincinnati Bengals, though, if there's a team that I expect to be on the rise from this group, it's going to be the Bengals. They are going to ascend. They are going to truly blossom, especially when Joe Burrow gets fully healthy. They fix this offensive line because they have the franchise in their hands. They just need it to all be put together. They need it to all work together. And I think that with Joe Burrow back in the swing of things, things are going to start clicking again for this team. Then you have the Las Vegas Raiders. They got decimated in free agency. I mean, people just gone straight up left. They traded away their offensive line, and they're just gone. The biggest surprise to me, though, the New York Giants. I'm a little shocked, and Nick, I'm going to throw it to you. Can you explain why the New York Giants are down here?
The New York Giants are down here because the way the history of the team has looked, they've just been on the downside of the last few years. They have not shown anything that says they are where other teams are. They're not average. They are below average still. Just because they signed some players this offseason does not mean they're better team automatically. They have to prove it on the field. So yes, they have the upside to become a better team over the course of the season. As it stands right now, if you look at the last 2 years or even the last year under Joe Judge, they were still not even a 500 team. So why should they be average when average is 8-8 in the NFL?
Yeah, I agree, and I just wanted to clarify for those of you who are taking a look at the Giants. You're like, well, they got Kenny Galladay, and then they got Adoree Jackson, and then they got Malcolm Butler, so they're just great. No, that's not who they are. They have to prove it first. They have to put it all on the field for us, and then we'll take a look. Then, lastly, we have the Chicago Bears. Wow. Who's playing quarterback? Who's playing receiver outside of Allen Robinson? And what the hell is happening in Chicago? I mean, really, are they trading for Russ? Are they not? What the hell's going on? Nobody knows what's happening in Chicago. They belong down here off in a dark corner somewhere because nobody. I don't even think people in Chicago know what the hell's going on there.
All right, now we enter C tier, the average teams, the middle of the pack, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, the Seattle Seahawks, the New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Washington Football Team. And real quick, the Los Angeles Chargers are on the rise. I think they'll be better than average this season. They were a couple pieces away last season, but I think the biggest add they got this offseason was Brandon Staley. They got a coach that can coach this defense. This defense was the biggest problem for them this entire time, and they couldn't fix it. Brandon Staley, who had the number one defense last year, is going to fix this defense. Justin Herbert's going to command the offense. This is the perfect 1-2 punch. I think it's going to be very similar to what Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were. It's a little outrageous to say, but I think it could really work. Minnesota, Mike Zimmer's in the hot seat. I don't think this team is really getting any better. They always seem to do better than you would think they do, but I think they're going to be average just like they have been the last couple of years. Pittsburgh Steelers are on the downfall. They're on the decline. You lost your center. You lost your tackle. You lost a bunch of cornerbacks. You lost a couple outside linebackers. This team is losing a bunch of pieces that were pivotal to their success, and they're just not looking good right now. However, the Miami Dolphins are on the rise. They are looking really good. This is a team I fully expect to be off the C tier list, even close to the A tier list by the end of the season. The Seattle Seahawks, they're on the decline as well. New England Patriots, they're on the rise. The New Orleans Saints, I think they're going to be average this season with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, until he proves otherwise, is just an average quarterback. The San Francisco 49ers, if they can all stay healthy, they are by far and away a better than average team. So I fully expect them to make their way off this list. And the Washington Football Team, I think that this is a stretch for them being at C tier right now because they may have won a division, but they still weren't even a 500 team last season. I think they'll be 500 this season at best, and I think they'll end up staying on this C tier list.
Yeah, I mean, the Washington Football Team rounds out the NFC East for the only division that we've seen every single team so far. So it's pretty wild to say that, even if they end 500, they could still win the division, which is kind of crazy. But we'll take a look. The Chargers, you said it perfectly. Brandon Staley there is a major upgrade. The Minnesota Vikings, they have some tough competition. There's no question about it what they have to deal with. The Pittsburgh Steelers on the down, Miami's on the rise, but they lost some major pieces this year. Kyle Van Noy, huge piece. They lost Devon Godshaw, both to the New England Patriots in their division. They're going to face twice a year. Shaq Lawson, a huge loss for these guys. There's a lot of pieces that they have to figure out. Seattle, oof. I mean, shopping Russell Wilson is as bad as it really gets, especially after he asked for an offensive line. Your immediate response is, any takers? I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? The New England Patriots, listen, Cam Newton, you can say whatever you want about him, but he had no offseason. He had no weapons. He had COVID. And it was just a terrible situation all the way around. It was his first season with the team. He didn't get the playbook until 2 weeks before the season started. He didn't get the playbook until 2 weeks before the season started. I think he's had a lot more time. I think we're going to see a different Cam Newton. They were 7-9 and 2 plays away from being 9-7. I think this team is well on the rise. And yes, I am a homer, and I do believe that I am personally biased, but I don't care. The New Orleans Saints, the loss of Drew Brees automatically knocked them down from what could have been an A-tier team to C or below. The San Francisco 49ers have clearly shown that Jimmy Garoppolo just isn't their guy, and why the hell would he want to win for them anymore? So who gives a shit anymore? And then Washington, we talked about it. They added some players. They won their division. Yahoo! This division is trash.
Well, I mean, now things get to look a little bit brighter. We got the B tier, teams who are above average. All starts with the Arizona Cardinals. Then we have the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Los Angeles Rams, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Buffalo Bills. Starting off with the Arizona Cardinals, this team, is almost A tier. If you look at their roster on paper, they're definitely A tier. They're almost a Super Bowl team, but they have to prove it. Kyler Murray is an unproven commodity. He has to show that he is an elite quarterback, that he is ready to take the next step in his career like Josh Allen did. I think that that's the biggest that's the biggest thing for the Arizona Cardinals at this moment. It's to see if Kyler Murray is the real deal or not. The Cleveland Browns, they show they have it. They have what it takes to compete. They put up great numbers against the Kansas City Chiefs last season in the playoffs, but they were a couple plays away, and I think that they fixed a lot of them in the offseason, and this team is ascending really quickly. The Baltimore Ravens, however, I don't think they're going to be at the B tier very long. I think they're going to be trending downward this season, more C tier. They're going to be about 500. I think they lost huge pieces in Ngakoue and Judon. Their edge help is bad. Those corners are not going to be as durable and as reliable as we know them to be with that edge help. So I think this team is going to be struggling a little bit. Then we have the Rams. They added Matthew Stafford, but on defense, you lost a ton. As you've mentioned in other videos, Mike, John Johnson and Troy Hill were pivotal for them, and they are going to need to replace them. That's going to take some time. I think that B tier is as best as the Rams are going to get this season, and they're going to be one and done in the playoffs. For the Indianapolis Colts, however, I think this is a sneaky team. I think they have what it takes to go all the way. Carson Wentz, I think, is going to be back to Carson Wentz as we know him, and he's going to work great in Frank Reich's system once again. I think this team has all the pieces to make a Super Bowl run, and they're going to make their best push. And as far as the Buffalo Bills go, well, they haven't made many moves, but did they really have to? Absolutely not. Josh Allen's still there. He's ascending every single year. I can only imagine what he's going to do in year 4. This team is going to be great. Stephon Diggs is there for a second year. I think that they're going to be a more explosive offense. I think their defensive issues are going to get worked out, and that this is going to be one of the hardest teams to stop in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't want to go one by one through each team because I think you did a great job. I want to just talk about two teams in particular. Number one, the Cleveland Browns. I believe that the Cleveland Browns are the most full team outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. I believe that they have every position locked down and ready to go with star-studded talent. They have a couple of nitpicky holes, and outside of that, they are locked, loaded, and ready to make this run. I think Kevin Stefanski has done an incredible job coaching. The new front office that they've brought in has really shined through and really brought this team to where they want to be. I love the Cleveland Browns. Next up, I want to touch on the Arizona Cardinals. You talked about it. On paper, they look absolutely incredible. I believe that Kyler Murray is going to take the next step. When you add a guy like AJ Green to this offense and you already have DeAndre Hopkins, this offense is prime for explosion. I mean, these guys are going to be absolute massive threats for any defense that they have to face. And they have to currently face the top defenses in the league twice a year. So iron sharpens iron. If that's who you're playing against twice a year, you have to see these guys for 6 games. They're only going to get easier games as they progress through the playoffs and wherever it is. So I truly and honestly believe that the Arizona Cardinals, at the end of the year, we're going to revisit this list. I believe they will be on top at the A tier.
And to round out our tier list, the creme de la creme, the top teams in the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, obviously, the Green Bay Packers, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what they've done this offseason is the most remarkable thing I've seen. I've never seen a team with so many holes because of the free agency, and they've been able to retain each and every one of them except for only one so far, and they're still a free agent. This is absolutely incredible. If you want to run it back, you have to do exactly what they're doing, which is almost the impossible task. I love everything they're doing. We know they're a proven commodity, and we know what we're going to get from them. They are going to be scary now that they have a year of chemistry underneath them. The Green Bay Packers, they still have a big hole, but they're still a dominant team. The wide receiving core is a little shaky because they have not improved it in the offseason so far, but they still have the draft. If they can get another weapon aside Devontae Adams, this is a team that can fully compete against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that if they had another weapon in the NFC Championship game, they may have won it. Who knows? But I think the Green Bay Packers are very close to being in the Super Bowl. They just need to fill a couple more spots. And the Kansas City Chiefs, you lost your tackles, but you fixed up the interior of the offensive line. You got Mike Remmers on the right side. That's great. But now you need to fix up the left side. That way, Patty Mahomes stays fully healthy and upright. He's not running for his life like we see Russ is. And I think that the defense, it needs a little bit more work, but this team is the team to beat in the AFC. There is no team that can really say they are better than them without actually proving it on the field. So without a team actually beating the best, you can't be the best.
I know this video isn't about bold predictions, but I'm about to make a bold prediction. When we do this video at the end of the season and we take a look at these teams in these tiers, the team that's not going to be here is the Kansas City Chiefs. I truly and honestly believe that the losses of Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz are so massive that they have more implications than anybody's willing to realize or talk about. I mean, these guys are top tier talents at their respective positions, left and right tackle. And Kansas City Chiefs fans, I'll continue to say this in every video, I don't care. Kansas City Chiefs fans blamed the fact that they didn't have these two guys on why they lost the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But then they applauded the team for not bringing these guys back, for letting them go into free agency. They said, we don't need them. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So you're going to see what life is really like when you don't have the guys that you have relied on for so many years. When you don't have the guys that have protected the franchise quarterback that you have known and loved for so long. This guy is going to be running for his life for 17 games in 2021. 17. He not one Super Bowl, 17 games. Every game he will be running for his life. And you know what? The Chiefs fans brought this on themselves. They said they could do it without Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. Now you're going to see exactly what you wanted. On the other hand, the Buccaneers, we know exactly what we're getting with them. We're getting a Super Bowl championship roster coming back into the fold. They are willing and ready to compete, to take on the rest of the NFL. They know they're being hunted, and it's go time for them. The Packers, they have some holes they need to fix. The offensive line needs a little fixing. The offensive line needs fixing, and they need wide receiver help. You talked about it, but Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are not going to get the job done. Robert Tonyan was a nice, shining piece that helped you throughout the season, but you cannot rely on Tonyan to be the next Travis Kelce or Darren Waller or Rob Gronkowski or whoever. You need Davante Adams to be great, and for him to be great, you need to have somebody opposite him that can take some of the pressure off, because every team is now just going to double Davante Adams and see what happens. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.